And welcome, everyone, to the Tuesday night, still unnamed, full press coverage NHL hockey show. We'll have a name before the regular season, I hope. Mike Straw, Jim Behringer, Chris Wassel. Guys, we have a loaded show today because we missed last week because people had to, be gone for reasons. But we're back. It's even better because we have more news about the topics at hand anyway. So it works. But first off, guys, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty well. Thanks for asking. I'm actually doing really well. Coming off a nice vacation. Couldn't complain. Very nice and relaxing. Back at it. You come back from vacation, boom, and you get news. So that's nice.
Yeah, come on. We get the never-ending story that is the Arizona Coyotes. The only disappointment is that we could not get the soundtrack for the never-ending story on the show.
Right? I think we might be taken off air had that happen. But you say the never-ending soundtrack of the Arizona Coyotes. We have a lot to talk about today. They're just part of it. We have Jack Eichel, of course. We have the Carolina Hurricanes poo-pooing on the Montreal Canadiens, and we have the Olympics. And because of how loaded this show is, guys, be sure to get your chats in wherever you're watching: YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or even on Twitch. You can call in 626-310-8882. But we're going to jump right into it. Jack Eichel, still a Sabre. We don't know what's going on, but he did get a new agent. He fired his agent and hired Pat Brisson, who is well known throughout the league as a guy who knows how to broker a deal with players and teams. But also, Eichel is reported to be close to having his surgery that he has been wanting, with a timetable of a return around December, which gives teams interested a bit more clarity. So, Chris, we'll start this out with you. What does this do for the needle of trade or hold with the Buffalo Sabres and Jack Eichel?
This moves it a little bit. Look, Pat Brisson is one of the better agents out there in the for NHL players, period. So if you consider that from that standpoint, and you also consider the fact that he apparently allegedly is closer to his Moby Dick, which is surgery, there is some hope of some kind of movement. What that is, no one still knows because, again, not many people have come up with anything concrete on where Jack Eichel may go other than listing teams and not really listing parts. So there is really the smoke is getting regenerated slowly. Let's put it that way.
And Jim, we have 1 month. We are ending August, getting into September, getting into training camp. Does this mean a deal is going to happen? Do you think now that everybody knows he's likely heading for surgery within the next couple weeks, probably? Does this, and you have a timetable based on things, does this signify, all right, well, we're going to get a deal before camp? Because we already knew no matter what, he wasn't showing up to camp.
It definitely moves the trade needle a bit more. Teams are now going to have to, push a little bit more before training camp. And the Buffalo Sabres, here's the thing, though. Buffalo's not moving off of what they want. They want 2 first-round picks, a prospect, a player. Look, they're in the driver's seat still. However, teams are going to be like, hey, wait a minute, he's going to have this surgery. No one's ever had this surgery before. Why are we giving up all this stuff for him to only come back in January? I think you can come down off your offer a little bit. But even though training camp's around the corner, whoever acquires Jack Eichel is going to put him on LTIR anyway. So exactly. It's not like he's going to be useful in the first few months of the season anyway. And not to mention, the good thing about this, and we'll get to it later, is because they have that quote unquote Olympic break. If they go, he's getting an extra 2 weeks off if he's not playing in the Olympics for Team USA. So, look, it's going to move the needle for sure. I think there could be a deal that gets done sooner rather than later, especially with Pat Brisson and his relationship to Marc Bergevin and a lot of other relationships he's built around the league. But we know Brisson operates by himself and not within the confines of anything else. He likes to make his own side deals. So I wouldn't be shocked if something is in the works to move.
And we know that's exactly why Eichel hired him. We all know that. Now, there are rumors. I haven't seen it, and maybe you guys have a meeting in secret between Sabres, Eichel, the NHL, and the NHLPA kind of to go through like what the hell is going on because this stalemate needs to end. Because the NHLPA obviously is not happy with what an NHL team is, I guess, holding hostage a player because he wants to get a surgery. And to me, it's in every organization's right to do that. But it's also in every player's right to want to do what's best for that player. I'm never going to be mad at a player that goes into business for themselves as far as being in a situation they want to be in. Does this, with the talks of that meeting happening, Brisson coming in, we'll get to the Montreal Canadiens in a moment. Does this open the door, I guess, to more teams being legitimately having a legitimate chance as opposed to maybe one or two teams like a Vegas or Montreal being a realistic place for Eichel to end up?
I think so, for sure. I mean, look, I think the usual suspects are still involved in this thing. I think it's LA. I think it's Minnesota, New York, Boston. I mean, look, Eichel's from Boston area. He'd be a perfect fit considering no David Krejci this year. I think he'd be an ideal fit for them. But again, a lot of these teams have to work within the confines of a salary cap and his contract. Now we rewind the Cox. When he signed that contract, I will stand pat on what I said then, and I'll say it again now. He should have never signed the contract when he did. He should have waited, but because McDavid got paid, the Sabres were in a panic to pay him, and they shouldn't have. And he's regretted signing that contract in Buffalo.
I mean, the Sabres were going to sign him no matter what.
Right, exactly. But I think from the player standpoint, I think he should have waited because you could tell then when he signed it, I think he regretted it. But that's neither here nor there. But I think it'll open up more teams. But I think the usual suspects are involved, like the Rangers, Rangers, Bruins, Minnesota, Kings, and maybe Montreal works in somewhere. But again, the salary cap, even though Shea Weber's on LTIR, Paul Byron's there. Paul Byron's going to come back off that midway through the season, same time as Eichel. So again, you got to maneuver things. So there's probably going to be a handful of teams involved, but it's going to come down to those 3 or 4 teams that we've heard already.
Yeah, and you talked about, and Chris, I'll pass this off to you. Mm-hmm. Well, we already know the Rangers won't be a deal because according to Rangers fans, every player on that roster, even, Mike Richter at this point is still untouchable. Sabres can go, we just want a bag of pucks. Like those pucks are legendary. They're untouchable. They've been in the Garden. Yep. Anyway, we all know how all 3 of us feel about the Rangers. But you see, before we move on, you see one of these teams likely that Eichel ends up at. Because he's not going to play until January, likely at the earliest, could a team kind of swing this as go, you know what? Sure, we have to give up a lot. And it's going to be a contending team that trades for him solely because of you're trading for somebody who's not going to play for a while. But you look at it as the biggest trade deadline acquisition you could make this year because of when he comes back and knowing you still have him under contract after. So it's one of those, to me, things, and correct me if I'm wrong, that it could just ultimately he's going to end up on a contender and he's going to come in and he'll be immediately the biggest acquisition any team can make from January on.
Yeah, it could absolutely happen. I mean, look,
provided the surgery goes well, obviously.
Yeah, we don't know. Look, any spinal fusion surgery has a great deal of risk. Darn it, I know way too much about this. Unfortunately, just because I had to read up on it, and B, had to be drilled upon it by a actual certified orthopedic doctor that has performed 1 or 2 of these. The thing is this: what if, guys, God forbid, the holy hand grenade is thrown in here, and there's a third team involved to make a trade in this? Because that almost seems like at this point, that may be what is going to ultimately happen here. There's got to be some team that's going to eat cap space in this trade. And,
there has to be.
And
I can see it.
And the one team that is definitely out is Vegas. They are out. They can't. They don't have a way back in. Kelly Buchberger said that as such, And for all the silly, dumb things that Vegas has done over the last year or two, I tend to believe them at their word, at least on this. So, we're looking at a realistic scenario where Buffalo still does not have to trade him yet. They can hold out. I mean, look, we still with Matt Duchene in Colorado, Joe Sakic held. I mean, held to the point where people were like beating down his door, like trade the guy already. And then finally he did it, and he got what he wanted anyway. So It is very possible.
But a third team was involved in that trade. Don't forget.
Yes, it was, and that's why I'm thinking this may be the case again.
At the end of the day, though, I do think Kevin Adams gets what he wants because it is Jack Eichel. Like, it is a major name star, a top line center, a cornerstone type of piece that a team is going to be getting. And I think that once a team knows what they're in for and that surgery is happening, this is the timetable, then they're more open to getting pieces. Speaking of teams that don't know what they're in for, or people don't know what they're in for, there's been a bit of a saga here, I guess you can say. This is long-term storytelling between the Montreal Canadiens and the Carolina Hurricanes. A few years ago, Montreal decided to sign Aho to an offer sheet. Carolina got pissed. Flash forward to 2021. Carolina decides to offer sheet just a 1-year one for Kokaniemi. And Montreal's pissed. Chris, starting with you, what's Carolina doing? Is this literally just their way of saying, you know what? Get bent. Make a decision now because we can eat that $6 million for 1 year. It's not going to hurt us. What are you going to do? Okay.
We joked about this yesterday, even that we could spend a whole hour on what the Carolina Hurricanes have done in just the summer.
They didn't give this money to Dougie Hamilton.
Nope.
We did.
Oh, we did.
There's no we. There's no we. You don't play for the teams.
Hey, I don't dare.
You don't run it. You don't do nothing.
All right, New Jersey did then.
Hey, I predicted. Yeah. All right. Now, all joking aside, you have to admit though that the $20 signing bonus is funny.
It's fantastic. It is so petty. It is 100% the pettiest thing ever.
My question, all this for the both of you is this: what freaking kind of pizza, good kind of pizza, am I going to get for $20 though?
Ooh.
In Buffalo, I know one place a couple places you can get good pizza.
That is true. I know
for like $13.
There's a couple of good spots in Jersey. You get $20.
There's
good spots and Jersey are three words that should never be in the same sentence.
Wait a minute.
Unless you're talking about good spots to get out of Jersey.
No.
Best pizza is in New Jersey. Period.
Wrong.
It's over. The argument is done. Trust me on this. We got over this. The nation agrees.
The nation is full of idiots. Haven't you seen what's gone on?
Yeah, we still can't
keep that out of that.
All right. Now, so you have that. You have obviously Montreal going, okay, we have to match this 6.135, cap hit. Yeah, I know. It sounds more comical than it is. It's actually 6.1, and there's a couple dollars thrown in for fun and measure and sales tax and pizza. Montreal, if you're sitting there right now, basically, now, here's the thing. Montreal signs him, right? They match. They can't trade him for a year. They can't trade him at the trade deadline.
No, that's why it's fantastic. A 1 year, that was the first thing that came to my head.
Same here.
They screwed Montreal if they decide to match it because they're stuck with him. Because you can't do anything.
Now, here we go. Sort of like the Volkswagen. You can't do the Volkswagen sign and trade, obviously. But now, see, this is where Montreal can get Carolina back. Not maybe to the same level because they're still getting burned no matter what. But the degree of burn is a little bit less because now Montreal can just sit there and go, well, we can either flip him now, take the first and third, or we do a 3-team trade with somebody, get some extra cap space out of the deal, and go and get Jack Eichel. There are options. They're not great. They're not optimal, but they are out there.
And of the division teams that could honestly get Eichel, Montreal's probably the one where I think Sabres fans would swallow. There's no way. Maybe send him to Ottawa, Canada's Siberia.
Oh, jeez. I know Ottawa's not a bad team. I mean,
I'm not saying they're a bad team. I'm saying just playing in Canada.
Oh, I agree. It's cold. It's cold.
It's cold. It's a miserable location for an arena. It is just probably the worst located arena in all of the NHL.
I will mildly disagree only because of winter nights going to the Brendan Byrne.
It wasn't that bad.
That one night in '87, Jim. I'm telling you.
I wasn't there.
I know.
Yeah, I don't care about '87.
I
don't care about '87. I'm talking about 2021.
But right now, no, obviously not. But yeah, it's pretty bad to get to Canada. I mean, look, I was there a couple years ago, and then I was there 5 years ago. That big December before Christmas snowstorm that dumped like about 1.5 feet. Yeah, I was there for that one. Man, that was brutal. I cannot explain this to the people listening on the show enough. Going through -20 weather, right? And it's snowing. Okay. Now, normally for most people, they don't understand this. When it is that cold, it is not just snow anymore. It is what they call snow pellets. It stings your entire face. It feels like somebody is throwing 1,000,000 needles into your face. So that is a true hockey Siberia, basically.
But with Carolina, so they didn't give the money to Dougie. They do this offer sheet. Do you think Carolina realistically expects to have Jesperi on their team starting this season? If you are the Hurricanes, do you think he's suiting up for you on opening night?
I think he is, to be honest. I mean, I wrote about it today. It's a cheap plug, but I think the best option for the Montreal Canadiens is not to match the offer sheet. I think they should just walk away.
They have to.
They have to. First of all, let's look at the Aho offer sheet from 2 years ago. Legitimately, everybody knew it was going to be matched. I mean, it's not like they went crazy. If it was like $11 million per season, then yeah, maybe Carolina walks away. But the AAV was perfect. Now, with the 1-year deal at 6.1, why would Montreal want to match and then have to start next year's qualifying offer at 6.1 for a player who's struggled since his rookie season? Not to mention Nick Suzuki's outperformed him at that position. Now, granted, losing Kotkaniemi and Deneau in the same season would definitely hurt, considering they just came off the Stanley Cup final. However, if you take the picks and you use them the right way, i.e. Arizona, Christian Dvorak, bring him in on good term with like $4.45 million at 25 years old. Now you've replaced Deneau, Suzuki. Now you're down the middle, isn't bad, with Dvorak, Suzuki, Evans, and Paquette. So, I mean, they do have options, and then one option is to walk away because then it's Carolina's problem next year.
Yeah, but I don't think Carolina cares that it's their problem next year. I think this is just a stick it to the Habs type of thing.
Yeah,
they'll be fine to walk away next year.
This is a stick it at all costs, and ultimately what it may cost Carolina is a playoff berth at this point, because by trying to stick it to everybody, Carolina goes over the technically goes over the falls too at this, because they'll be temporarily over the cap. So
yeah, I think Carolina screwed themselves when they made the goaltending decisions they did.
Yeah, I don't think there's a snowballing effect that are way besides what has happened here.
Yeah, like Carolina, at least they're fun to talk about, these bunch of jerks.
It's true.
They are a bunch of jerks. But you think about it from Montreal's side, too. Like the 6.1, say they match it and Byron comes back, they still have to move somebody out to get underneath the cap anyway. So, I mean, the number hurts both teams, and Carolina has to figure out a way to do it. And as Chris said, I agree. I don't know if they're a top contender in that Metro division with teams getting better.
Yeah, exactly. Because who You obviously have the Islanders. You have Pittsburgh. They're always going to be up there no matter what. They're going to find a way there. You have Philadelphia if they can keep things. If Carter Hart can be the goalie they want him to be, you don't know. You have the Rangers who are just. I mean, when you have Panarin's good enough to sneak you into a playoff spot. As long as he stays healthy. And Zibanejad, I think people sleep on how good Mika is. But I mean, they're going to be good enough. So it's just tough. Yeah. With Carolina, like, I don't know what they do. Like if I had to make my guess now, they are a playoff team, but it's very unlikely that I think, or very quick for me to think that, that doesn't happen because I don't think Columbus is one. Washington, I forgot about the Capitals. I mean, you're probably looking they can finish anywhere from like second or third in that division
to almost dead last,
depending how things play out. The Metro division is the most wide open division of everybody that other than, actually, no, like it is the most wide open.
It's the division it was supposed to be 2 years ago, basically.
Yeah. And it's tough for me to see that. And all I know is it's going to be the most fun division to watch. Carolina's going to wish they were in the Pacific. Let's put it that way. Though I think everybody's going to wish they were in the Pacific. Let's be real.
Just for the Capitals Rangers games that we're going to get to see. I mean, yeah, both teams by the end of the season are going to wish they're in the Pacific.
Yep, exactly.
Because that's its own storyline right there.
Yeah, exactly.
So we're going to take a quick break. You are watching the Full Press Coverage NHL unnamed roundtable hockey show that will have a name by the start of the season. I don't know. Maybe this is fun. When we come back, we're going to dive in to the Arizona Coyotes and where they're going to be playing, because right now it's like a wheel. Where it stops, nobody knows. You're watching the Full Press Coverage hockey show. And we are back here on Full Press Coverage's Tuesday Night Hockey Show. Mike Straw, Jim Behringer, Chris Wassel. If you missed us before the break, you can always go check us out on demand, youtube.com. Look for Full Press Coverage. We talked the Sabres and Jack Eichel, the Carolina Hurricanes and what they're doing. And now we're moving on to even more fun. The Arizona Coyotes. We're going to play spin the wheel of where they'll play. Now, it seems every year we're talking about Arizona. Okay. Since 1996, when they moved from Winnipeg to Phoenix, it only took 5 years for people to go, I don't know where they're gonna play. Steve Ellman at the time, the old owner, couldn't find an arena. He wanted to build one in Scottsdale, couldn't come to an agreement. Eventually, Glendale happened, the Heel of the River Arena. And now fast forward after countless ownership changes and rumors galore. Well, Glendale announces it's not going to renew the Coyotes lease deal after 2021-22. Okay. So, is this the last season of the Arizona Coyotes?
God, I hope so.
That hurts.
I mean, and look, not to be mean, look, the first couple years when they were in Phoenix, they had an awesome team because they were the former Winnipeg Jets, and they were playing in Phoenix, downtown Phoenix. While the arena was not the greatest, they
had terrible sight lines.
I mean, they were playing a basketball arena, let's be honest. But ever since they moved to Glendale, it stinks. I mean, the commute is horrible to people you talk to out there. It's just, it didn't work out. They built the arena for the Coyotes, for the sports, and they figured, they can make it, they were going to be the attraction, but you realize you can, sports is not, when you have an arena, you can fill it with other things and you have other good sports teams around. So it's not like it's a big deal. And the travel from Scottsdale and Phoenix area to Glendale is atrocious. It's like, Ottawa to Canada in the winter. It's terrible. But, I think if they were able to get an arena with like the Suns, and maybe they move in with them somewhere, if they could have, brokered a deal somehow with them or figured out a way to get it in Scottsdale or downtown Phoenix, it would have been better for the Coyotes. And it just, more people would have come and they would just had a better thing going for them. But the thing to me is this league wants Arizona to work. They were owners one time. They've kept them there for a reason, the TV market, all that stuff. There's a reason they're there for that long. It's going to come a point in time where you're just going to be like, just throw your hands up and be like, all right, it hasn't worked out. We just got to move them someplace.
It's going to be an Atlanta Thrasher situation.
Yeah, it's going to be an Atlanta Thrasher situation. Agreed. And I think it's either going to be Kansas City, it's Houston. It's somebody that has an arena right now ready to go. Or they stay in Arizona and play at Tempe. And maybe that's something Chris will bring up because, that's been a rumor as well because they're thinking about doing something there. But again, how many people you're going to have from the area, you want to draw a market. So, again, I don't know how feasible that's going to be for them, but it's a nice idea to keep them there.
Yeah, market-wise, it's a little easier, and from a commuting standpoint, it is easier to go from Phoenix to Tempe or Scottsdale. It is a lot easier. I may know a little thing or two about this. Something Super Bowl. And a few other trips to Arizona. Because, hey, it's totally just a 4.5 hour drive from Joshua Tree to the Phoenix area. Just saying. Now, here's the thing. They get a new arena, right? They're still going to have to play somewhere else after the season.
Yeah, no matter what they're done.
It's going to be at least one more season after that before this new arena gets built or is NHL ready. Let's put this that way. It will take at least 2 years. So they will find, they expect to find something. What that will be, no one knows yet. And that's where the never-ending story comes in, because it's just going to find a way to keep dragging on, unfortunately, until you get to some kind of resolution. So as of right now, they are not moving, and they have no intentions of moving. This is going to be something that just goes on and on. We're going to keep talking about it.
100%. Like, I get they have no intentions of moving, but you can have no intentions of moving, but we heard that from Atlanta too. And then 3 weeks later, oh, by the way, we sold the True North. We heard that from Winnipeg. And then, oh, by the way, a month later, they announced they're packing up to Phoenix. We heard that from Quebec, and then they packed up to Colorado.
Well, remember what happened with Quebec too. Quebec is because and it's almost like another drop facts, where basically the quote unquote cable company that bought Quebec and moved them to Colorado, there was a deal in place to keep the Nordiques in Quebec, and apparently the owner didn't get the memo, literally. And that's how that deal got consummated. Literally weeks later, he just didn't get the memo in time. He went with the other, the deal to sell to quote unquote cable company, and that was it.
Yeah, I mean, there's only been one team where they were like, and like obviously because I lived through it, there's only been one team where they're like, no, we're going to find a way to keep this team here, and it worked, and it was Buffalo. In the early 2000s, the NHL took ownership and was like, no, we're keeping this team here. Then Golisano bought the Sabres.
Yeah.
And when he sold the Sabres, it was in that they cannot be moved. Period. Like that was the only way he was giving up that team. So even if the Sabres get sold again, like they're not going. And it's because the hockey market, but we saw teams like trying to, and then we run into Coyotes. Okay. Say in March or February, it comes out, Coyotes ownership. Okay, well, we couldn't do anything in Glendale. We've been trying behind the scenes to get something in Tempe. We've been trying in Scottsdale. We've been trying, even talking about going back to Phoenix while we can build an arena. Nothing worked. They pack up and they say, we're moving. You already mentioned Kansas City. You mentioned Houston, which, God, I hope not Houston. Texas does not need another NHL team. One is enough in Texas. Where else could you realistically? I don't want, like, there's always these pipe dreams of magically, like, oh, they'll put a team in Saskatchewan. No, they won't. Anybody who still thinks that, like, the only Canadian market that they put a team is Quebec City, and they've had countless opportunities and they haven't. If the NHL really wanted a team in Quebec City, there'd be a team in Quebec City right now. So where realistically do you think a team could end up if the Coyotes relocate that isn't Kansas City or Houston?
I mean, they could always, until, like, hypothetically say they stay in Arizona, but an arena is not ready for them. I mean, they always could, play out of somebody else's building
They could always go to Tucson.
Yeah, they always could do that. Yeah, they always could do that for a little bit.
Sun Devils,
they could play out of there until an arena is ready. Like we've seen the Islanders do that. We've seen other countless teams do that before. We've seen it in other sports. Look, we know Atlanta doesn't work. They failed twice, so they're not going to go back.
The thing is, I still miss that logo. I love that team name and logo so much. Like something just epic about that bird. It was fantastic.
Thrasher,
dude, so much better than where do you play for? The Islanders. Like piss off.
Gordon's Fisherman. Come on.
the
maybe I'd appreciate the Islanders if they kept that logo instead of bowing out.
Oh, the Milbury years. Gotta love the Milbury years.
Beautiful time.
So, continuing on. Not Arizona, like, yeah.
Kyle does ask a good question in the sense.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing. What if the NHL hasn't put a team in Quebec City because they want to save it in case the Coyotes need it to move? The problem with that is, at least as of this moment, it's more of a power play in Quebec City than anything else. And it's not just a political power play. It's a power play in general for control of that arena. The arena is built. It's NHL capable. It's just a question of getting the right ownership to meld with the arena and the complex itself to make it agreeable to everybody. And they have not found a way to do that yet.
But at what point is Quebec City politicians, what point do they say, we're tired of being like dangled as this thing that's never going to happen, and they just say, piss off.
starting to wonder if it's happened already. And we just
it might have just happened already. I mean, look, everybody said, they could get, if they move it, to be honest, it could be more for expansion, relocation. I mean, look, they could get a ton of money for both, but I mean, considering you get more for expansion than you do for just relocation. But I think Quebec City is more of a relocation than it is an expansion. And it would be nice to have the rivalry back. But again, everything is, so balanced right now that they kind of figure out a way to get something done to keep the Arizona Coyotes somewhere in that region. And if it's in Tempe, if it's in Scottsdale, heck, maybe they go back to Glendale and renew a lease. I didn't even know they were operating on a year-to-year agreement until it came out. Until we're opting out. I'm like, wait, opting out? I thought these leases last for like 20 years.
Yeah, and then remember, last year it came out that the team was at $500,000 behind in payments to the company that managed the arena. That's a big reason why that ended. They're too much in the red. They can't pay the management company anymore.
They can't even pay their own players.
Yeah, at this point,
they're so far in the red. I mean, how much deeper are you going to get into?
And that's why at this point,
I come up with an actual arena that works. Yeah, I mean, but you have to find something now.
I don't think there's an arena that works in there. Like, I hate to say it, but they've had these financial issues for so long now. Like, how much can it go before it's like enough is enough is enough? And I just. It's tough for me to see it happening. So I'm going to throw out some cities, though, that and I want your opinions on possible expansion for various reasons. Now, a city that I was thinking about that I know will never happen is Hamilton, because it almost happened with the Sabres, and Toronto poo-pooed that one. And when the NHL thought about moving another team to Hamilton, both Buffalo and Toronto were like, hell no, because Buffalo has a monster of a fan base in Southern Ontario. Now, I think of a few cities. So on a scale of 1 to 5, interest in a team in the Coyotes relocating there. Indianapolis, Indiana. 5 being the highest, 1 being the lowest.
1.
2. We'll go with 2.
Cleveland.
I could say 2.
I'm actually gonna go a little different. I'm gonna go with the 4 because I think there's at least several different team names that you could come up with that would piss off everybody but the fans of Cleveland, and it would be fun.
That's true.
I personally think Cleveland would be cool because then you obviously have that Cleveland Columbus right there.
Oh.
If Seattle never happened, I'd say Portland. But 3 teams in the Pacific Northwest, I don't see ultimately ever working. Personally, I would have rather have seen Portland get an NHL team over Seattle. But I don't think that happens. Here's one that I guarantee will never happen, but I'll throw it out there. Hartford.
I mean, it would be nice, but it's never going to happen.
Yeah,
the Whalers. Great theme song, by the way. Great goal song. It's a great goal song.
It is the greatest stuff. Oh, by the way, just for the quick update for those listening, Canada getting gift calls in a gold medal game. Yeah. Yep.
It happens.
It happens every gold medal game.
No matter what.
Alex Carpenter 2, Canada 1. In the second.
Last city. Milwaukee. Actually, I do have one more that I just thought of.
You know what?
Successful HL team.
Exactly.
Very successful.
Mm-hmm.
And dedicated fans of that team.
Very dedicated fan. And you could have a nice rivalry there with Minnesota.
Minnesota, and you got
and
Winnipeg
Chicago's
there
not,
as well.
Chicago's
not far.
Chicago's right there too. That's actually a good city. I mean, they would support hockey up there, no doubt.
And I think their arena could be suited. They have a pretty brand new building. So of them, that'd be the one. There is another one that it's a small market, but it's a pretty cool market, and I really love these types of markets getting teams, and that's Salt Lake City.
That's another place that I could see happen.
Dedicated. Even the Utah Grizzlies got they because the small market they latch on their teams.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, you get the small market like, the thing is, like, look, obviously Nashville's worked out because they figured out a way to do it, to incorporate like everything into the city, incorporate it with the football and everything. But the thing is, like, some of these places are always going to be behind. But like, if you have a small market like Milwaukee or Salt Lake City, you're not dealing with football all the time, which is really good. And I really like that. So I could see those two. Those would be my two favorite cities, Milwaukee or Salt Lake City.
What do you think, Chris, before we move on?
Yeah, I like Milwaukee as a feasible future NHL location, and I'll be perfectly honest. You know, it's along one of the Great Lakes. I'm all for this. Adds rivalry. All for it. Let's roll with it.
So, one thing I think we should probably make clear is I don't, at least in my opinion, and you guys might agree, might disagree, and then we'll move on. There's no way the NHL expands beyond 32 teams.
No.
Ever. I feel like 32 for American sports teams or even sports leagues is just like that perfect number. And you're right there. And the only time a new city gets a team is, one, if the NFL expands past 32, then other leagues might, because everybody follows what they do. Two is relocation. So we're kind of looking at that front. And the only option of relocation right now is Arizona.
Yeah.
Now, or go on before we move on.
No, I say agreed, 100%. You're not gonna go past 32 teams. You have the divisions are perfect. You have 16 teams each conference. You're good. All the divisions are back to where they're supposed to be. Stinks for Arizona that they're going to be in the Central Division instead of the Pacific. But oh well, beggars can't be choosers. I mean, realistically, how fun would that Central Division really be if Vegas was there? But again, doesn't matter. One team or another in that same region was going, so it had to be Arizona. But again, this is perfect. I like it, and I don't see it. The only way anything happens, like you say, is relocation.
So, speaking of options, and there being one, the NHL and the Olympics. They weren't in the 2018 Olympics. They're going apparently to the 2022 Olympics. You know what? Because you have the take, Jim, I'm not starting with you because I want Chris to get in his thoughts first, and then we'll go right to you. Is this a good idea overall?
I probably almost have somewhat the same take as Jim, but not quite.
I don't think it's going to be as visceral as his.
Oh, no. I saved that for other things. Now, here's the thing. There's a couple of reasons why I'm not necessarily for them going to China. One, and this is a big one, and I still hate Canada. Now, two, I still hate Canada, and three, I still hate Canada. But look, if what we're reading is true, and that supposedly these protocols that are going to be used for the Olympics are even more pervasive than what we saw in the original bubble, that is going to drive players nuts.
100%.
That's one problem. The second is the inevitable, guys, and we saw this in Olympics past. Just ask John Tavares sometime what he feels about, playing in the Olympics. That one year where he busted his knee is the inevitable I word, and that is, injuries. Everybody loves to point to the 2010 Olympics, where right afterwards there was about a 120% spike in injuries within a week. Within a week, we saw more than double the amount of injuries. It was one of the worst wars of attrition that you will ever see in an NHL season. Could that happen again? Absolutely, with COVID and now going back from a 56-game season, which is like a KHL season, to a full 82-game season, that's a big problem there as well. So for those factors alone, it is a problem going to the Olympics. That being said, if you can find a way to make this safe and not make it quite as pervasive as they're talking about, and the third and somehow COVID is less of a factor this winter than it was last, then we're stuck with it. And it's that simple.
Okay. Well, before we get to you, Jim, I'll throw in my quick thoughts. I kind of don't like it. I kind of like the whole amateur thing or non-NHL players. I personally just don't like the 2 weeks off between with NHL hockey selfishly. And that I word, that injury word, like the last thing I want is my top player to go over there and then get hurt. And we've seen it happen enough to where it scares me. I'm just not a fan of the pros in the Olympics. I've never been a fan of pros in the Olympics, period, no matter the sport. So that's just my quick thought. And there's really nothing that'll ever change my mind in that. So, Jim, the floor is yours.
Look, everybody loves the Olympics. Everybody talks about, oh, it's great. Get to watch professionals in the Olympics. I'll watch them every week. It's called the National Hockey League. I don't need to watch them in the Olympics. I don't need to see them in the Olympics. I don't need to see them in China. It was great in 2018. You know why? Because I was watching a Germany team that I wanted to beat Russia. It was awesome. When you're coming back from a 56-game season, the year before that, you had to stop because of COVID. You're going to go dark again for what, 2-3 weeks? And God forbid somebody gets COVID and these countries like Canada, the United States are going to have restrictions coming back in. Now teams lose their players for 4 weeks. Now you may have to shut down for a month. What benefit does the NHL get from going to the Olympics outside of when they're held in North America? Zero. Zero, zero, zero. They can't use anything from the IIHF. They can't use anything from the IOC. Nothing could be on the website. They can't use any of the pictures. No highlights, period. Oh, fans are going to watch. Fans are going to watch. When has the Olympics ever influenced TV ratings for the National Hockey League? Never.
Hockey fans are going to watch hockey no matter what it's on.
The two highest rated gold medal games were Canada versus US in 2002 and Canada versus US in 2010. Why? Because they were on North American soil and they were in reasonable time zones. No one cares when they're overseas. I hate to say it. It's hard to watch. You can't
especially
watch
because people want to watch it live. I refuse to watch it. Spoiled, yes. I refuse to watch things on tape delay.
I will not watch it on tape delay. I want to watch it live. And I'm not getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning to watch it. I'm sorry, but I'm not. And
that's my job.
Right, exactly. That's your job. You tell me what happened. That's it. But take the political stuff out of it with China. Why are you even going there? What benefit does it do for the NHL? Nothing.
None.
There's no benefit to them going to the Olympics. I don't want to hear about, the players are like, we need to go represent our country. Yeah. You also play for a Stanley Cup. And in talking to a lot of guys from North America, they value the Stanley Cup more than they value a gold medal. Europeans and Russians, it's different. It's the other way. But on North American soil,
because the NHL is the North American League, whereas
exactly
for them, it's international play. So you got the World Championships and you have the Olympics every 4 years. So I get that. But if you're in the NHL, I'm one of those players. I'm taking the 2 weeks. I don't even want to go to the Olympics. Fine. If you want to go. I'm not. I'm going to take these 2 weeks and I'm going to spend with my family.
I've talked to a couple of players that say they don't want to go because of the COVID thing and other factors. And I agree. And until the piece of paper is signed and until they finally actually say it, I still have doubt that they're actually going to go, because there's going to be a point where the National Hockey is going to be like, you know what? COVID's too bad. We're not going.
Yep.
And they have that right to do it. So that's my take on it. You can disagree with me or not, but I do not want professionals in the Olympics, period.
Agreed. I'm going to agree wholeheartedly, because I do think for those who think that, well, they released the schedule with the 2 week break. Yeah, they have a schedule sitting in case they decide never mind. It's ready to go. Like they build
ready to go.
So that's not a concern. The logistics are nothing as far as the scheduling of the game.
It's right. It's right there. It's in black and white.
It's tough. This is the weirdest year. If this was any other year, maybe I'd be like, this is great. But I just don't think this is the right time and place. And then you push it off and then you wait till 2026. Like, if you're going to send them, I didn't miss the NHL players as much as I thought I would in 2018.
Neither did I. I had more fun watching it then than I did prior to that.
Exactly, because more games were open. I don't care. It's like, well, if the professionals were playing, we know this would have happened. It's like, yeah, but I don't care. The Olympics weren't designed for professionals. They were only brought in professionals because they realized it picks up ratings for the networks broadcasting the Olympics. It's the only reason professionals were ever in, not because they wanted the best athletes in the world. It's because they wanted the best money makers for the ad revenue. It's the only reason. And I going into 2018, I was like, oh, I'm not going to enjoy this. Then I loved it to where I'm like, I don't need them back. And I'm still in that mindset, 100% in that mindset.
It makes 110% sense. I get it. It's like once it's look, I mean, because I'm an old curmudgeonly fart here. I mean, I actually remember 1980 because I was just old enough that I could. Yes, Jim, I watched something on tape delay, and it was as enjoyable as the actual game. That's because we had no choice.
Hey, I wasn't around in 1980. All right, there, big guy.
I know, but it's one of those things where it's like you sit there and go, "Hey, those amateurs did something that will never be done again," and there's a part of me that sits there and goes, "Well, professionals." And then I remember a certain Olympics that Canada won that the hockey was so boring I wanted to literally stab both my eyes out with
you mean
icicles.
2014?
I will argue that was the worst Olympics ever.
It was so boring. Mike Babcock had that team trapping on Olympic ice. Oh yeah, game's going to be more wide open. Did you see Canada's defense? No, it wasn't.
Yeah, they just had 4 defensemen and 1 forward. Anyway,
but getting onto this, like I believe we have something else on the burner.
Yeah, I'm just I just don't see the point of it anymore. I know a lot of people, like, it's a very touchy subject. Not touchy, but
it elicits some reaction, surely.
Yes, that's the best way to put it. And it's on one side of the spectrum or another. And you know what else elicits a lot of reaction? Just us being on this show each and every Tuesday night. You can watch us 8 o'clock right here. Full Press Hockey. We have the Unnamed Hockey Show next week. So a couple weeks ago, we wanted to do the trade machine. And we didn't get to it because just bigger news. Provided bigger news doesn't break again, because we had big news for it. Yeah, we had big news for an August 31st show. Like, there's a lot of stuff. We are going to do the NHL trade machine, and all 3 of us will be here for it. Tuesday night, September 7th. And it's going to be, and I'll be right in the midst of a vacation when I join this show next Tuesday. So I will be well rested and ready to go with Franchise Hockey Manager. I'll have that loaded up on screen, and we will do some fun trades and see how we can make the NHL more exciting with one trade each of us to get.
How many trades will get rejected? Stay tuned.
Every single trade I guarantee you I offer.
I love it.
Can I get Malkin for I don't know, Sean Malone?
Oh, come on. That's like, can we get Sidney Crosby for 10 first-round picks? Oh, believe me, we came like I said, you could just go through HF boards and just comb through some of the archives, because they do exist, and I have a good laugh at some of the ones that we came up with.
Exactly. But that is where we're going to end it tonight, ladies and gentlemen. For Jim Behringer and Chris Wassel, I'm Mike Straw. Thank you for tuning in. As always, you'll find us right here next week, same time, same place, same beautiful channel. Until next time, good night.